Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that, but don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new week of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 359. We're covering movies coming out the week of Friday, August 21st, 2026. The movies covered for this week include To Use a Mountain. Great story from Eric Holmes regarding To Use a Mountain, by the way. Bloodshine and Rosebush Pruning. We also might get a screener link of this family film headlined by Andrew Garfield and I believe Claire Foy. Claire Foy's in it. I saw the trailer. The Magic Faraway Tree. We're recording on Monday right now, me and Eric. I think we might get links. And I will review The Magic Faraway Tree probably later in the week. This is all, I believe, going to be all on one episode. So again, yes, some interesting movies this week. I'm excited. Learning to Fly, To Use a Mountain, Bloodshine, Rosebush Pruning, and The Magic Faraway Tree. And that's as far as my fake lively voice will get, because here's Eric Holmes. How are you, sir? How are you, Eric Holmes?
How's it going?
It's going. Yes. You have some thoughts. Last week you did a drive. We're gonna use To Use a Mountain.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to do that with the review, or do you? I was gonna ask superficially, how was your week? But your week included 3 hours worth of driving to see a documentary. I think at least.
I was with my beautiful girlfriend, so the 3 hours it felt like 10 minutes. So the drive was not a problem.
And I apologize. You're beautiful, Emmy.
Emmy, yes.
Emmy, EMME, right?
Why?
EMMY,
yes.
Like the award. Okay, Emmy.
Yes.
All right, I should know because I'm going to put the photos that you sent on I think Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to shut up right. That's going to be part of our podcast cover for this week,
yeah.
By the way. Just FYI, some personal images. So what happened?
I remember talking a little bit about To Use a Mountain. I think I said it was pretty good because I'd already seen it. I'd already seen a screener of it. And then I've done the interview with Casey Carter, the director, which is what got me out to Boulder, because I think it was either while we were recording the interview or after we were done. But Emma, the PR lady, she hooked me and Emmy up with the tickets because it was playing at the Mimesis Film Festival up in Boulder, Colorado. And so if you want to go to that, I'm like, yeah, interview Casey Carter. I liked him. So, we'll get to watch his movie again in the theater and then get to talk to him afterwards. And we took some pictures. They'll probably be popping up here and there on the YouTube version at Greg's discretion. But yeah,
the good news is it's only 10 minutes away from where you live, right? This place called Boulder.
Like 10 minutes. Yeah.
No, it was an hour and a half overall, right? An hour and a half full drive. How long was it?
It's probably about, somewhere around just under an hour and a half, I think. We took the toll road, so we beat a lot of the traffic. And there was like no traffic getting to Denver, which sometimes is a crapshoot. Just getting to Denver itself could take 2 hours, or it could take 40 minutes. It all depends on what the traffic is. And it just happened that traffic was negligible, so we got through there pretty quick.
Were you okay watching the documentary a second time? Okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good documentary. It plays like, I think I might just repeat a bunch of stuff because I don't remember what I said yesterday. I barely remember what I did yesterday, let alone last week.
Okay.
But just to get through the thing, so we get to the Boulder Cinema or Boulder Theater. It's a theater inside of the art museum.
Okay.
And I forget the name of the art museum now. But anyway, You go in the art museum and then you go to the left, and then the Boulder Theater is over there. And that's where they were, at least one of the places they were housing the film festival. And the film festival is all documentaries. And they opened it with To Use a Mountain. I got to talk with a little bit with the guy, Eric, who runs the film festival, and I gave him my info. So hopefully when they have that film festival again, he'll be able to hit me up ahead of time so that I can say, hey, if you're in the Boulder area, go check this out at this time. It didn't really work out this time because it was already underway. And by the time I'm talking about it, it would have been over, but we'll see what happens there. Yeah. But anyway, we went, watched the movie, and then afterwards talked with Casey. And then after that...
Was Casey happy to see you?
Oh, yeah. He's like, oh, this is the guy that Zoomed me for an interview. I'm like, yeah. And then, because I didn't know where he lived, I assume he lived in the Colorado area, which is why he was playing it there. But apparently he lives in New York, and we were talking about taking a trip to New York to see Emma, the PR lady. She's got my number as far as whenever she sends me a movie, it's like, Eric, you need to check this out. I listen because mine and her sensibilities line up a lot. And then he's like, oh, I live in New York. I'm like, hey, we'll go see you. And so, yeah. But
you screwed up the lead.
Oh, yeah.
What did Emmy think of the documentary?
Oh, Emmy?
Yeah.
Oh, I get Emmy and Emma. Emmy and Emma mixed up. I was like, yeah, Emma loves it. She's the PR lady for it, so obviously. But yeah, Emmy seemed to dig it. She was, I don't know, she may have been tearing up a little bit through some of it. And so
okay.
It gets heavy. So the whole point of this is about certain sites that they're going to store, permanently store nuclear waste. And there's like 5. I think the most famous one is Yucca Mountain. That's the one they center on towards the end. But then they go through the other 4 or 5 places before they get to Yucca Mountain. And I think the whole premise of this is, hey, these are 5 places. We don't want to store it near a city or anything. There's too many people. But here's a place where, there's 4 houses nearby, but we can relocate them. This would be the easiest place to do it. And on paper, that sounds like, yeah, makes sense. Do it in the low population area rather than high population area would be much easier. Casey Carter seems to ask the question, let's talk to these 4 people in that area. What do they think about it? And then that's what the documentary is. It's got a really slow pace to it, or a calming pace to it. And so when things hit, they really hit. When they're talking to the people in the area, because it has a lot of kind of words, and I forget where he got them from, but there's a bunch of data on the screen and just lulls you in. And the numbers seem to make sense. The black and white words on the paper seem to make sense. And then you get to talk to the people that live in that area, and they're like, yeah, we can't do that. And then they move on to the next place and do the same thing until they get to Yucca Mountain. And then Yucca Mountain was non-negotiable. It's like, this is where it's going to be. So the other places, they were like talking, and people talked them out of it, and they moved on to the next thing. Yucca Mountain was like the last resort. They're like, yeah, we'll hear you. Cool, we're doing it anyway. And then it just became a whole mess that's still costing the United States today because of that whole blunder.
Do you get to learn about the people? You said they're interviewed. So
yes.
By the end, are you getting a picture? They're not just...
Yeah, so this plays less like a documentary and more like a Chloe Zhao movie, where it feels a lot like
Nomadland.
Yeah, where it's slow pace, and you're just living and breathing with the characters in it. It's not really a talking head. I mean, I guess technically there are talking heads because they talk to people, but it doesn't really feel like an interview setting most of the time. It feels like an indie movie through much of the runtime of it.
Does it feel like Happy Campers a little bit? Something like that?
Yeah. Yes, that exactly. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sold. Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, wow. I wish I would have thought of that, but glad you did. But yeah, so it goes through the things, and it's, for the most part, the documentary is emotional plea rather than, it's got its facts in there and everything, but it doesn't lean on that. It leans on the emotional aspect of it. It's like, we know why we're doing it. We know everything in black and white makes sense, but what are we really doing? There was I watched this monologue a lot, and somehow I still don't memorize all of it, but one day I will. But it's from Outbreak with J.T. Walsh, and he's going about, they're going to firebomb the area, Cedar Creek, I believe. The firebomb it, kill so many people, and one airborne virus. And then there's a part in the thing where he throws out pictures, and these are the people of Cedar Creek. I want you to burn these images in your head, because their images should haunt us in our sleep because they're about to kill them. This is that. It's like, we know what we need to do. We have to do it. But let's look at the people whose lives are going to be affected as a result of that. And then, all of a sudden, the numbers have a face to them. And maybe the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. Let's look at the one face. Once you do that, that becomes much harder, doesn't it?
Devil's advocate, do you think that people watching this documentary may come out with even a different reaction? Oh, I know these people.
Well,
screw it. The stuff has to be done. You see what I'm saying?
The thing is that it ended up in Yucca Mountain. That was the last one, and that's already widely viewed as a blunder. The whole idea is, why did he even think to do this? And then now that you get the emotional appeal to it and see the people that would have affected, they're like, you guys didn't check this out earlier? Like, why was this one of the spaces? This does not make sense.
How did it play in the theater?
You could hear a pin drop the entire time, and then they did the Q&A afterwards, and a lot of the questions, I don't remember all the questions. I'm sure they'll have them probably somewhere, maybe because there was someone like videotaping a lot of it, but a lot of the questions were very engaging, and I mean, I think it played well. It felt like it did. And here's another thing. This cemented the whole idea of a movie that you have to see in theaters and a movie you don't have to see in theaters. I think this would be labeled as a movie you don't have to see in theaters, but after seeing it in theater, that's incorrect. This movie, there's some shaky cam stuff as you get with documentaries, but there's some absolutely beautiful shots in this. The sound in this is great because they make use of that little radioactive, that little tick, the radio, and they use really subtle sounds with that really sort of add some atmosphere to it. And yeah, I saw it on a screener at home, and it was good, and I saw it in the theater, and it was better. So yeah.
That's very good. Again, that is To Use a Mountain. What is your rating on this documentary, Eric?
I would probably go, I think when I saw it on the screener, it was probably 4 stars. I think after watching it in the theater with a crowd and then having that sort of weight added to it, it added an extra half star. Yeah, we'll just go 4.5. It's a good documentary. It's a really interesting one. It doesn't play like a docu. I think that Happy Campers is probably the better example, where it's a documentary. It doesn't feel like one. It feels like an indie movie. And yeah, that's really creative in its approach. And stuff. Go check it out.
Great job.
And the fact that I love it probably means everyone else hates it. So
get out of here.
Who knows?
Stop
Maybe
it.
it's a 1 star. I'm crazy.
Stop it. That's 4.5 stars for To Use a Mountain from filmmaker K.C. Carter. Correct, Eric? Am I okay?
Yes.
Just making sure. It opens Friday in New York at DCTV Firehouse. That's number 1. And then the next week, with a theatrical expansion and a nationwide TVOD release to follow in the US and Canada. I'm sure Eric will have further details down the road when it comes out and further in more theaters and on TVOD. Eric, you were saying?
If anyone checks this out and anyone listening to this happens to check this out in a theater, I would love to hear your thoughts on not so much the movie. Definitely want to hear what you think about the movie, but I want to hear about your theatrical experience. Because this was the movie that would prove the rule, or whatever, however you want to put it. This is not a big blockbuster movie, but yet I think it's one that you should see in the theater. And I wonder if other people would have that same reaction to this.
Eric, would you be personally offended if I started watching it right now on my iPhone? How would you feel about it?
I mean, it still works. And here's the thing. Here's the thing about watching it on the iPhone. Pick a big movie.
E.T.
Yeah, watch E.T. on the iPhone. It's still going to be good. It's a good movie. It's still going to be a good movie. It'll just get a little more out of it. And
I know you're talking about the immersion of it, the immersion of something like To Use a Mountain in theaters.
But they also listen to critically acclaimed Willem Bibiani and Whitney Seibold. They talk about this a lot. That'd be great if you could watch every movie in the theater. You can't, because they come out, they're in the theater, and then once they're on that, they're on video or streaming or whatever. That's where they spend the rest of their life. So it's got to be able to work on an iPhone as well as a theater.
That's fair.
It's just, in a theater, you got a very small window in the grand scheme of things. You got a very small window to watch it in there. So do it when and if you can.
By the way, folks, this CinemAddicts is Eric's CinemAddicts because he has a whole bunch of movies to get to. Let's get to the next one. Again, I'm excited for To Use a Mountain. I hope by the end of the week I get around to watching it, and I won't be able to talk about it how I felt in theaters, Eric, because I never leave the house. But I will give my thoughts on this documentary anyway. But there is another movie called Bloodshine, and it is a folk horror film. And I'm going to read the plot line. It seems a little bit weird. Set in a desolate area of upstate New York. It's an expanse, so I guess a wide field or maybe big property. Bloodshine.
Think of oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Think of the area from Killing of Two Lovers.
Very good. I like it.
It's in the wintertime, so a lot of snow. Think that area.
Sounds good. You're painting a pretty good picture so far. Hopefully it's a good movie. Bloodshine centers around Clara, a religious zealot who worships light in lonely sacred rituals. When problematic horror director Brighton West travels upstate to finish the screenplay for his next movie, a chance encounter with Clara. I know people call her Clara, but I like saying Clara. Leads him
Clara in the movie.
Oh, Clara. Okay, let's go by the movie, not by what I like. Chance encounter with Clara thank you, Eric, leads him into a hallucinatory web of faith, flesh, and the sublime. In theaters and on digital, August 21st. This sounds interesting. Seems like a two-hander between Clara and that director Brighton West. I think sort of. Does this movie, Bloodshine, good title, does it work for you, Eric?
Yeah, and I didn't think it would.
Why?
I don't know. There's some. I don't know. Just
folk horror is not your thing.
That's not it. It's. I don't know if it's the name of the movie or it's not, some before. This was before I put it on. I was like, this might be. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. But the opening scene happened, and it was it Keith? He's a farmer, and he's driving somewhere, and his vehicle breaks down, and he goes to Clara's house. It's like, hey, sorry, I know it's the middle of the night, I'm creepy, but I need someone. I can wait here if you want. I just need someone to call a tow truck. And she's like, no, it's fine, you can come in. And he's like, okay. And then they have a little bit back and forth. You get to know a little bit about Clara, not too much because she's sort of a mystery, but the fact that it's called Bloodshine and the fact that she's dressed is like a female cult member or cult leader, you're like, there's something off about Clara. And then it cuts to Keith bleeding and Clara giving Keith a knife, going, now you must complete it. Kill me. And then Keith stabs himself in the neck. She's like, no, you ruined it. Cut to present day. And then it's like, oh, cool. That's really cool. Cold open. Then we cut to present day. I'm like, oh no, it's going to be that movie. And then, but they get right to Brighton West, played by David Call. And he's a filmmaker, and he's having one of his female actors read a part. Here, let's read this other part. It's a seduction scene. It's not in the script, but I want you to read it for. It's like, okay, this guy's a creep.
Oh, horrible. The worst.
And his producer wants him to write a script for the next movie. And I know you're into drugs and stuff like that, and I just want to make sure it's like, no, it's cool. I got this place out in the middle of nowhere. I'm gonna write the script out there, and then I'll give you a call when it's done. He's like, no, you're gonna give me a call every day and give me an update on what you're doing. It's like, okay, whatever. So he goes out there and goes to a bar, and he's effing off, and someone gives him directions to this area. It's like, it's real quiet, and you could probably ride out there or at least get some inspiration, because he was saying he was having writer's block, even though he was telling his producer, no, I got all the ideas. And then he goes out there, and Clara's bathing in a little stream or a lake, and Brighton sees this and just starts taking pictures of her. With her, she doesn't know. So Brighton's he's basically a creep. I mean, they lean into that pretty heavily. And then eventually she starts to turn around. He ducks away, and then he looks up and she's gone. And then all of a sudden, a tree branch comes up behind him and cracks him in the head. And then he wakes up in the Clara's house. What happened? A tree branch fell on your head, and I brought you here, and blah, blah, blah. And then you see Clara's doing the same thing that she did with Keith earlier. So now you see where this is going.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. And then the rest of the movie is, because with Clara and Keith, we start off with Keith and then cut right to Clara giving Keith the knife. I want you to kill me and finish this. And he kills himself instead. Yeah, they cut right to that. So there's all that stuff in between. What happened? How did they get there? With Brighton, you get to see how they get there. And then
that's interesting.
Yeah. And then so there's this whole thing with Larry Fessenden is in it. He's like the cult leader. But am I wrong, or is Larry Fessenden always in movies but not really in movies? Because no, that's not true. You do see him in the flesh in this, but for the most part, you see him on projection, like recordings.
Or a voice. Yeah, the voice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta say, I love Larry Fessenden, but when I saw him in this, I was like, of course he's not in the movie. They're just gonna use a recording of him or whatever. But anyway, yeah, he's always great and stuff, and he's great in this. And he's the cult leader, and you get to hear like recordings, Claire plays like recordings of him like saying stuff. And I think the main conceit of their cult or their religion is that our body is a prison and pain is a lie to you to keep you from escaping your prison. So when Claire says, do me, she wants to die. She's not worried about the pain, but she can't kill herself. She needs to get someone else to do it for her, which is what she wanted Keith to do, but Keith wasn't going to do it. He kills himself. And then while she has Brighton there, she hands him a knife after hearing Larry Fessenden say about, just pain is a lie. It doesn't exist. It's your body lying to you or something like that. And then so she's trying to get Brighton to cut himself and he doesn't do it. She cuts him, but eventually it builds like this. I'm going to start getting into the ending if I keep going, and I don't want to. Got it. I don't want to, but so it started off like, I don't know, we'll see. And then I started watching and going, I'm digging this. It's not what I thought it was going to be going into it. And then the further it got into it, it was like, oh, this is way not what I thought it was going to be. And then when it gets towards the end, I will say like the ending, there's some parts about the ending that confused me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I let it go because I think it's one of those things like I didn't quite get it, but I just watched it. So maybe if I watch it again, it'll become clearer. But it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like I just didn't catch it. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. This movie is also directed and written by Emily Bennett and Justin Brooks. Emily Bennett plays Clara, which is pretty good. I mean, pretty good feat for her to do.
Nailed it.
Yeah, nailed it. And it feels like a lot of the movie's sort of a battle of wills between these two people, if they can outsmart one another or sort of a showdown.
Sort of.
Yeah. Okay, but you can't really.
I will say what you're saying, not wrong. It goes different directions. It doesn't go where you think it's going to go.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. A lot of good things. There's some stuff that happened towards the end where I'm like, okay, I see where this is going. Oh, I didn't know where this was going. Oh, they're doing that? Okay.
Very good. So that,
and then something else happens. I'm like, that's interesting. All right, cool. And then, if you watch this movie, it's like totally predictable. I'd be like, bull crap. I don't believe you.
All right. So that is very cool. That is Bloodshine, folk horror from some really interesting filmmakers, and it hits theaters and will be available on digital August 21st. Eric Holmes, what is your rating on Bloodshine?
I don't know why I'm not going higher, but I'll go 4.5 on this one as well.
Still a great rating.
I think if that ending hit harder, this could have been a 6.9 easy. But the ending just didn't hit like that. A bunch of cool stuff happened towards the end, but it was like one of those where I'm like scratching my head at some, and I'm talking like the very end. There was some stuff that happened that had me scratching my head a bit, but there was cool. It wasn't really a bookend, but it was, and you'll understand when you see the movie. There's a thing with the filmmakers Brighton's movie, because they show a little bit of his movie early on in this movie. The character's movie they show, and then there's something that is a callback to that was cool. But anyway, I thought it was going to go one direction. It went completely another direction. Some of it kind of the very tail end didn't fully make sense, but I think it's 4.5, room to grow. We'll say that
4.5, room to grow from, very interesting. Bloodshine. What an interesting title, and ends up it's an interesting movie as well. Again, in theaters and on digital, August 21st. Now, the movie as of this Monday that I have seen, that Eric, by the way, has also seen, is a film called Rosebush Pruning. It is from director, I am mispronouncing it. It's a Brazilian director called, his name is Karim Anous. He directed Invisible Life.
Ainouz.
Thank you, Eric. And he directed Firebrand, Motel Destino, and Invisible Life. This movie is set in Catalonia, Spain, and it's a rich family. There's 6 members of the family, right? One of them has passed away. That person who's passed away is a matriarch. That's played by Pamela Anderson. And so essentially what you have now are 5 living people in Catalonia. They're Americans who have been transplanted to Spain. The patriarch is played by Tracy Letts. He is blind. He is the leader of the family. He's the dad. And also the 4 kids are played by Lucas Gage, Callum Turner, Riley Keough, and Jamie Bell. And the rest of the movie, I think it's about 94 minutes. Some of it is a social black comedy, social satire on maybe however you want to look at it. Supposedly they said it's a critique on our patriarchy in a family, how destructive it can be. So there's a little bit of that.
Oh, that's what it's about?
That's what it's about. It's about a lot of different things that Eric and I can't spoil, but let's just say throughout the 94 minutes.
Real quick, Greg, good luck spoiling this.
I
don't watched the whole thing. I could not spoil it if you paid me.
Okay, I don't want you to spoil. There is a little bit of a spoiler, which I don't want you to mention. There's something that happens in the middle, which we won't mention. There's a little bit of a surprise.
Again, Greg, I might spoil it on accident. You may have to just cut it because I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Okay, so essentially what happens is these 5 people, surviving members of the family, they're just all weird. And they're all
That's
rich.
An understatement.
They're all rich, okay? They're a very wealthy family. And each of the kids are rich by themselves. So what does that mean? They're very entitled. They are also amoral. They do bad things, possibly to each other, to other people. They're sociopathic. And they do weird things, which Eric said, to say the least. At the beginning of the movie, when you realize, the mother, played by Pamela Anderson, she passed away 2 years ago because she was eaten by wolves out in the Catalonian forest. And what they do as a sacrifice to the wolves is, you see at the beginning, I don't know if it's every month or every week, they purchase a dead skinned lamb in a body bag, and they put the lamb out in the forest for the wolves to eat as a sacrificial thing, saying, hey, we're feeding you a dead lamb. Please don't eat us. Okay, so that's already weird.
Not specifically them, just don't eat another human.
Don't eat another human.
We fed you, you're full. Leave us, like us, the royal us, like humanity.
Yeah, exactly. And you already killed our mother the wolves already killed our mother, so please don't kill us.
Actually, not bad thinking.
Not bad thinking.
We understand. You're wolves, you're wild, but you got to do what you got to do. It sucks that you killed our mom, but we forgive you.
Okay,
and now we're gonna help you out.
So
that's probably the one good thing them as a collective do, just in general.
Okay, but still, it is interesting that they do that. But what's even weirder is, and this typifies the rest of the movie, is, oh, sorry about that. That is, let me just turn that off. Okay. The Jamie Bell character, when he sees the dead lamb in the trunk of the car or the back of the car, he opens up the body bag, the plastic body bag. He sticks his finger in the lamb, or I think he cuts up a little bit of the lamb. So there's a little bit of blood.
He cuts a hole. He cuts a hole in the bag. Sticks the finger in the blood and licks the blood.
And then,
everyone knows. Don't stick your finger in the food. Everyone knows it.
Or lick the blood, right? So it could be symbolism. It's just a weird thing. It might be an omen of things to come. Why is Jamie Bell's character licking the blood of a lamb, the blood on his finger, and putting it in his mouth? Another fact, it's not a spoiler. The Jamie Bell character, I think he's the oldest out of the family as far as the kids goes, and he's considered the leader of the kids, the one who's the most stable. So at the beginning, if you're thinking he's the most stable, what about those 3 other kids? And so I've said enough about Rosebush Pruning. Eric, what do you want to say about this movie?
This movie reminded me a ton of Saltburn. where I think overall I like this movie. I can tell you what this is about. Most of this just went well beyond me, either over my head or under my nose, one of the two. But it's basically just a family doing messed up things. And then there's also bits of this movie where things happen. You're following the narrative. I'm like, okay, I get what's going on. I get what's going on. Then they cut to a scene where something happens. I'm like, wait, what? With no, it's just like the scene just starts and then something happens. I'm like, I feel like I wasn't paying attention for the last half hour, but I was, because I just got the scene before it. And now we cut to another scene where I feel like I'm missing 90% of the context. And so there's a ton of that in this.
Well, you missed 90% of the context, but you still ended up liking the movie.
Yeah, I like the look of it. I like the music of it. The individual scenes, like in a vacuum, are crazy enough that we get something out of it as sort of, oh, whoa, look at that. Isn't that weird? I would say it has. I didn't know that brushing your teeth could be disgusting, but here we are talking about it.
Oh, yeah, and we're not going to make, it is a little bit disgusting. Brushing your teeth is very interesting. Okay, let's just say that. Very good. We also have to mention that Elle Fanning is in this movie. She plays Martha. Martha is the girlfriend of Jack. Jack is played by Jamie Bell. Again, Jack is the leader of the kids. And then we also have to mention, this is a weird disjointed narrative because Callum Turner, he plays Ed. Ed is one of the kids, right? They're now adult kids, right? They're adults now. But Ed he's a voiceover. So a lot of the movie is told through his VO, his voiceover, but ultimately I don't feel like there is a huge main character in this movie, Eric. Not even the VO guy.
If anyone, it would be him, voiceover guy. But it's an ensemble piece. I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but I think it should be said. There's a ton of incest in this movie, and I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but it needs to be said because if anyone that would be a huge trigger warning for some people, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think you know what, we'll cut that out. I will just say this: I just cut out something that Eric said, which I understand that I understand why Eric mentioned that because it is a little bit of a surprise, but there is a lot of, let's just say there are some triggering elements.
I'll say if you get triggered by anything of a sexual nature, this has a lot of it in it.
Okay,
and
there you go.
I'm not talking about rape.
Okay, so there's just a lot of just stuff in it. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that could be triggering and possibly offensive, or I think most importantly triggering. But there's this family, they're really well-to-do and they're very focused on what their watches are and what their bags are, how they look, and they're very vapid. But even though they seem like empty vessels who are materialistic, there's a lot of darkness that is in each of these people. For Rosebush Pruning, also have to mention that at the beginning, and it's not giving too much away because that's the title of the movie, Ed, his primary passion is
prunes rose bushes.
He prunes rose bushes, and at the beginning, I forgot what the saying is. He talks about a rose is a person, and then a rose garden or something is a family. And then he said sometimes you have to prune the roses. All right, so now you understand. At the beginning, Ed's pruning away the roses, and it's a direct symbolic gesture because if your family's a garden, sometimes you can't just let the garden completely grow. Sometimes you have to cut things here and there. That's the title of the movie. Also at the beginning, Ed is seen with a guy, a guy in his late 40s, early 50s. They're out on the beach. He's a Greek guy. And they ended up being, supposedly through Ed's voiceover, they were friends for a couple of months and he had to go back home to Greece and he was leaving Spain. And it starts off with it's an interesting situation because Ed talks about how he goes, I really like this guy. I really like him as a person. And even he was surprised by himself because he knows, and we eventually get to know, that these people don't really end up liking a lot of people. They're just it's hard to latch on to someone emotionally in this movie. And I think
if you're the person that watches a movie that needs someone likable in the movie to enjoy it, this is not your movie. There's not one likable person in this movie. It's really interesting. And real quick, to the part that you cut out, who's the narrator?
Oh, Callum Turner who plays Ed.
Callum Turner says something about someone that if you watch it, you'll be like, huh? And if you're worried about that, bail immediately.
Okay.
I think that's vague enough, and we'll give you a warning sign when you get there.
And there are things that are a little bit nonsensical. Ed likes to say, I think it was either Ed or someone else. Yeah, I wrote it down. This is said a couple of times in the movie. Banana falls down, no matter. Melon falls down, it's over. And you're thinking, what is that about? You might, like Eric, you might be looking at this and going, what is this movie about? This is something else. But yeah, visuals.
Well, that's why when you said no spoilers, I'm like, how do you spoil this thing? Because it's just a bunch of things happening. What? And much of it's depraved. Some of it's just weird. And some of it doesn't really fall into a typical narrative.
I also appreciated where the ending went because, like Eric just said, it doesn't fall into a particular narrative.
Please tell me. I would love to know.
We'll get to, maybe I don't know even know if we're going to do spoilers because you're going to do a spoiler of another movie towards the end of this episode. But yeah, maybe I'll give you my thought if we do a very quick thing on that. But yeah, so what is your rating on Rosebush Pruning, which is out on MUBI, streaming on MUBI Friday, August 21st. Thanks to MUBI for providing me and Eric and Bruce screening links for this. Yes, Eric.
I feel almost identical to this movie as I did about Saltburn, and I couldn't remember what I gave Saltburn, so I went back and listened to the review of that, and I gave it a 3-star banger because I feel like this is a movie that some people are going to really appreciate and lap up, and other people are just going to be like completely turned off. Spoiler alert, Bruce's review on this is coming up later, but that's why I'm giving this a 3-star banger. This is gonna hit people differently depending on your taste, I guess. Overall, I thought it was interesting. I liked it. I don't like if we did a spoiler thing for this, and maybe we will. I don't know. It's up to Greg if he wants to. A lot of it would be Greg saying stuff, and I go, "Yeah, I guess that makes sense." I did not get a lot of air quote get it. If someone's like, Eric, you just don't get it, I'd be like, yeah, you're right. I don't. It just seemed like a bunch of things happening. But I like the characters were interesting, if completely depraved. The music was good. Cinematography was good.
The locales are good. It's a beautiful looking movie.
I don't know like when you say this is a satire, I'm like, what are they satirizing? I don't like. It just seems like
maybe
hey,
black
let's
comedy.
have a bunch of black comedy. I get satire. I do not. I do not get what, and if they're doing a satire, I think they need to beat people over the head a little more to get that.
Maybe social commentary, maybe social commentary. Maybe I always
misspoke. No, because here's the thing: if you're doing a satire or social commentary, you need to be pretty blunt about it. Because if you're not, it doesn't do anything. Here's this vague social commentary we're making. Hey, here's this vague satire we're doing. And anyone watching it, if 90% of the people watching it doesn't get it, you failed in your commentary because you didn't comment on anything. Hey, here's my social commentary. Did he get it? No. Then I guess apparently I didn't. I commented. No one heard it. So what good does that do?
Fair. I did get the commentary behind Rosebush Pruning. I took a different route than Eric did, though. I wish the actual story itself was a bit more propulsive, meaning there was a character I could latch on to, not just as a empathy or none of that stuff. I was wanting to feel like I needed to watch this movie again. And I don't think I'm going to see this movie again. No, I'm not going to watch this movie again, but
I'm never going to brush my teeth again.
Very good, Eric. Yeah, so I agree with Eric. Cinematography, music, the acting, great ensemble. I liked watching it. I'm not going to return to it. I knew what they were saying regarding the patriarchy and the social system. At least from my POV, I understood it. I could be wrong. I love the ending. I had some questions about it, but overall, I'm giving this movie, I recommend it. 3.5 out of 5 stars, worth a watch. It's very surreal. A lot of people doing bad things to each other. If you want 93 minutes of that and you're okay with it, it might be up your alley. But if you want some sort of resonance or value-added humanity into this, you're not going to get it. with Rosebush Pruning. It's not that movie.
If this movie is a commentary on the patriarchy, I would suggest you watch An Eye for an Eye.
Oh, that's very
and that's
good.
very clear on the downsides of the patriarchy, and it's directed by someone that kind of thinks the other way. So
yeah.
If that's in fact what Rosebush Pruning is supposed to be, I think it fails on that horribly. Where a movie we covered last week excels in it, even when it wasn't trying to.
That said, that is a 3-star banger from Eric Holmes for Rosebush Pruning. That is a recommend for Eric, and I give it a recommend as well with 3.5 out of 5 stars for me for Rosebush Pruning.
Mine's a recommend or a not recommend, depending on
if you like.
Yeah, if you like Saltburn, give this a shot. If you hated Saltburn, just don't bother.
Again, it is streaming on MUBI on August 21st. Finally, this is a good thing. Eric went to the theaters over the weekend. He did see The End of Oak Street. Now, he's going to finish up this portion of CinemAddicts with a review of The End of Oak Street, and then he's going to do spoilers, which we will edit out from this episode. And if you want to check out the spoilers for The End of Oak Street, go check out our CinemAddicts YouTube channel. Eric Holmes, the floor is yours regarding The End of Oak Street, sir.
David Robert Mitchell did It Follows and Under the Silver Lake, and then The End of Oak Street.
Are you a fan of the first two? Are you a fan of those first two movies?
I thought It Follows was okay. I thought Under the Silver Lake was okay. And I thought this was pretty dang good. I gotta say, I'm an idiot. I had no idea that that's who it was making this until after the fact. But I would also say that I guess you got It Follows, Under the Silver Lake, and this feel like 3 completely different movies. So good on them. They got a Danny Boyle thing going on where it's like, apparently this filmmaker can just go wherever the hell they want to. They don't have they're not an auteur in the sense that they're locked into one style of filmmaking. They can go everywhere. There's definitely a lot of Spielbergian, Amblin entertainment filmmaking going on here. Basically, the End of Oak Street, I think most people know, these people in this neighborhood, bunch of weird things start happening, and then just one day their neighborhood is not in the world that we currently know. Their neighborhood specifically is transported into prehistoric times, and now they're cut off from the world. No electricity, no internet, no anything really. They're just in 200, 500 million years, however long ago it was, and there's dinosaurs everywhere. And they're like, what the hell happened? And so a lot of the movie is people first of all, it's a survival horror movie. Everyone's trying to survive. Once they realize what's going on, they see the dinosaurs going everywhere. They get in the car and they try to leave, and there's a dinosaur forest over there. Oh, okay, we'll go the other way. Up over there too. Oh, we're surrounded. We're in the middle of prehistoric times. And then now they're trying to figure out, how do we survive? We got food, but that's what's in the refrigerator. We got no power. That stuff's going to go bad soon. We're not prepared for this. We're going to die. And then of course they do a sort of thing where the family that we're following, there's a dog that runs away, Starbuck. And then the kid runs out to find Starbuck. And then the rest of the family is like, oh, where's our son? We got to go out. That's what gets them outside the house into peril. And that's pretty much the rest of the movie. A bunch of dinosaur mayhem, a bunch of people dying, the family getting thrown into peril. And it was pretty good. There's a certain thing that happens that I will talk about in spoilers. But overall, this is a 4-star movie leaning towards a 5-star. And I need to talk about this more. And either way, regardless, it's a recommend. This might be worse than I think it is, or it might be better than I think it is, based on the spoiler that I'll be talking about.
Are you glad you saw it on the big screen because of the dinosaurs and everything?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Even if it was To Use a Mountain, it would have been great on a big. All movies are better on the big screen, but it would work on an iPhone as well.
So currently, the end. What is it? The End of Oak Street. Is that the name? It got 4 stars from Eric Holmes. Currently in theaters.
Yeah, it could grow depending on the spoiler conversation we're about to have.
All right, we're gonna have it in a few seconds. That is it for this episode, this installment of CinemAddicts. Bruce Perky will be up with his reviews as well for this week. Thank you so much. I might also add in that an extra movie review or two towards the end of the week as well. Because remember, we're taping this on Monday. Bruce's stuff gets in here on Thursday. Bottom line is you're gonna have a episode chock full of movies. And you want to say anything before we get out of here, Eric?
Yeah. Go To Use Mountains playing in your area. Go check it out. Bloodshine.
Yes, Bloodshine.
Very, very curious what you think of that. Very curious of what people think of Rosebush Pruning.
All right.
I'm pretty sure I know what Bruce thinks of it. Rosebush Pruning, man, this is the Rosebush Pruning is the tough one of the week because this is a movie. I can't imagine someone's gonna watch that and go, "Yeah, it was fine." Like, yeah, you're gonna be. I guess technically I am, but it feels like a movie that people are gonna really gravitate towards and just really get into, or movies that people are gonna watch and just completely reject. Which I guess Saltburn.
I just realized right now we should actually at the end of this episode run your interview with Casey. So I'm going to use this CinemAddicts episode 300 as a standalone episode. We're not going to cut to the attic. We're going to cut to Eric Holmes with his interview with Casey
Affleck. Oh, no.
Yeah, very good. So here's his interview with To Use, a mountain filmmaker. After you, Eric. What's his name?
Casey Carter.
Casey Carter. That is it. We'll see you guys here next week or in a couple of days over at CinemAddicts. I'm confused, but here's Casey.
I think this site's pretty well known in terms of nuclear energy and waste disposal, but you go into sort of the more emotional sort of impact that it has on the people in the area. What brought this documentary to you?
Yeah, so it came out of an encounter with the archive first. And I was doing some research on Yucca Mountain, which if anyone knows anything about nuclear waste, they know about Yucca Mountain in southern Nevada. But they probably don't know anything about the other sites which were also considered for this singular site for a consolidated nuclear waste repository. And in the course of that research, I found all of these reports on all of these other sites. And there are these tomes of research produced by the Department of Energy on each one of these places, hundreds of pages long, maps and diagrams and text and statistics and just incredibly detailed and thorough descriptions of a place, but just with absolutely no human dimension. So part of what I wanted to do in the film was to discover that human dimension and create a film that is in a way a rebuttal to the form of this archive of describing a place in a purely analytical and utilitarian way, and present each of these places in a more humanitarian and not humanitarian, in a more humanistic way, to see the communities, to see the landscape, to feel what it feels like in these places, but also to feel what it feels like to face the possibility that the federal government will say, you're the one. This is where we want to put this place, to face this potential destiny that people in these communities felt as an existential threat to their history, to their communities, to their identities in some sense. So yeah, it was part of the impulse of the film was to fill in the missing spaces from this archive and create this humanistic rebuttal. But part of it was also to explore the impact of not only being selected, but being faced with the possibility of being selected, and the fear and anger that the imprint that leaves.
Yeah, I think one of the values in this is with the things you put up. Here's a mostly empty place. There's 4 or 5 houses around, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's better than putting it next to a city. And then this documentary is like, let's talk to the people in those 4 or 5 houses around there and see what they think of it. And then it turns it into that statistic that you would just brush off, like, yeah, just a few houses, we can make this work, into oh yeah, there's still people there, isn't it?
Yeah, and it forces us to contemplate what it actually means, whether or not there's some notion of a trade-off that's a different question. But if you're not even acknowledging what it means to engage with these 4 or 5 people, then you're not really thinking about the impact of the issue.
Yeah. This also put me down a rabbit hole. I watched it the other day and have since been going through a ton of
Nice.
YouTube videos. One about recycling nuclear waste. Just back, I don't know that it would work in the bombs, but I don't care about those. But the nuclear power, and then that would turn the waste into fuel. So then you wouldn't need a fuel dumping site. You just keep it on the sites like it currently is and just reuse it. Or
with the reprocessing.
Yeah, but it got me thinking of, hey, here's an issue we do have. We do have nuclear waste. We got to figure out something to do with it. And then we can't just dump it off into a mountain. So let's figure out other uses for it. You start to get more creative with that, I think.
Yeah, hopefully there's some reasonable technological solution that helps us deal with this issue in the future. And I'm by no means an expert on the feasibility of this fuel reprocessing, which is the term. But my understanding is it's very expensive, and that's a hurdle in the United States. And it doesn't completely eradicate the waste, and it produces also other forms of nuclear waste and higher, what's the terminology? It basically produces more weapons grade material. So one of the reasons they don't do this in the United States is because it's apparently bad for proliferation, the idea of nuclear weapons proliferation. Because in this process, you're creating more material of weapons grade, and that means you have to then manage it and deal with it and keep it out of a sort of eventual destination of being used to create more nuclear weapons. So there are numerous arguments associated with what's the issues with nuclear fuel reprocessing currently. And again, I'm not an expert on it by any means, but hopefully in the future there will be some more responsible and feasible way of managing this material.
Yeah, it's great that we use all our technology to build a weapon first, and then hopefully it's got other stuff. And then we can't afford to do that because we're spending all the money on their military. So, but this isn't that show.
Yeah, but it's like all of these contradictions is a part of what makes this issue so complicated, and also is a part of what makes, I think, the film hopefully intriguing, is because I don't try and erase any of these complexities and contradictions, and just encounter them from a different vantage point, which is through the communities, but it still touches on the complex history of nuclear weapons development at the Hanford site, which is one of the candidate sites in the film, and nuclear weapons testing at the Nevada test site, which is one of the sites in the film. And just like the challenges we have in a democracy, in a civic society, to deal with this issue and to negotiate the space between community and the local interest and local politics, and then the national interest. And not only the national interest, but the national interest as executed through a somewhat authoritarian process. And we're in a more authoritarian moment even now today, but you see in the film the extent to which the people who had encounters with the Department of Energy, they felt they were being steamrolled. They felt they were really dealing with an authoritarian context in that process. And it's even worse now.
Yeah, we weren't even at our worst then.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very complicated issue, both technologically, socially, and politically.
Yeah. What's the choice of style in this? Because it is a documentary, but this has a feel of like a Chloe Zhao movie. Or it's just like really quiet and serene, and then the parts that hit.
Yeah.
So it's like we're gonna lull you in, and bam, we're gonna hit you with the story. Okay, all right, we're gonna back it off, and then just the cinematography and all that. It felt less like a documentary, more like an indie movie.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, there are a couple of things I was like always trying to do with the film from the very beginning, and the film winds up being the manifestation of those interests and those goals with the tone and the focus of the film. And one of them, of course, was just like this experience as a landscape. And that's the more, I think, what you're referring to when you said the Chloe Zhao feeling, and maybe also the way that we encounter individuals within the landscape as well. But it's the more contemplative side. It's the calmer, quieter, hear the grass and feel the air and listen to the insects. It's that quality that I'm really trying to bring out in each one of these places, so that as you move through this journey across the country, you have a visceral feeling of what it's like in these in each of these landscapes. And then the other thing, stylistically speaking, is the maps, right? The archive, like trying to create a visual voice for these maps and this text that comes from each of these Department of Energy reports on each of these communities, and trying to create a psychological space where those maps are presenting both information, the text is presenting information, but it's also presenting in a way, it's trying to capture a certain feeling of what does it feel to be mapped? What does it feel like to be reduced to a point on a map or a fuse to test in this report about nuclear waste? So there's a certain psychological weight there. And so that's a completely different stylistic element. And the map animations and text in the film try to capture that psychological heft. And then there's just the topic of the film. It's heavy. And we're talking about people whose families were impacted by nuclear weapons testing in Southern Nevada. And there's no easy way around what that looks like and feels like and sounds like. And it's tragic. There's a real just intensity associated with the subject matter, and then also the anger that comes out of the communities in confronting these issues. So all of those things are just twisted up together in this film, and you move through the troughs and valleys of that experience of the landscape, that experience of the archive, and that bearing witness to the anger, but also the resilience in the people that populate the film.
What response have you got from this? Because the scene, normally with documentaries like this, you get usually with the political sectors, one side is all about it, the other side hates it. But from what I've seen of Yucca Mountain, like as much of a blunder as it was, this seems to be the one thing everyone looks back at and goes, "Yeah, that was not good." I've not heard anyone that's like, "Yay, Yucca Mountain!" Like we should.
Yeah, they exist, but they are few and far between, because they tried to put it in Nevada where absolutely nobody wanted it. And there were all kinds of technical issues that were there to begin with, and then discovered even more so once the Department of Energy went deeper after they made their selection. And in the decades following began this process of preliminary construction and additional research into the mountain and just learning more about water intrusion and hydrology and all kinds of technical factors, where they had to continue moving the goalposts around how they were going to meet these isolation criteria. But yeah, it was totally a blunder and a huge mistake. But there are people who would advocate for it, who still are advocating for it. Even in Project 2025, the conservative outline for the
Nazi manifesto.
Yeah, exactly. There's a chapter on the Department of Energy in that document, and one of the things that it outlines is restarting the licensing process at Yucca Mountain, as well as resuming nuclear weapons testing readiness is the phrase they use. So anyway, we haven't seen that happen yet in terms of restarting the licensing process at Yucca Mountain. I don't know if it will, but that was part of the roadmap that was set forth by Project 2025. So there are people who are advocating for this. And in terms of the nuclear industry and the scientific community, especially as it intersects with physics and nuclear physics, this is a very inconvenient story for them. And mostly they don't want to talk about it because they want the whole system to work properly. And they're scientists and they're engineers, and they think we have the capacity to solve these problems. So it's a very inconvenient story.
Yeah, I mean, they're scientists, so unlike politicians, you get something like this or something like Chernobyl, they tend to learn the lesson and move forward.
But this is the thing with Yucca Mountain, is it's such a complicated intermingling of science and politics. And if you do any digging, as it sounds like you've been doing, you see that time and time again where there are people just talking about, oh, the science is being politicized, or it's not a scientific decision, it's a political decision, but it just gets so muddled because there's not sufficient transparency.
Yeah. And we've never seen anything like that. Cough, COVID, cough, but
exactly.
Yeah. Congratulations on the movie. Before I want to let you go, I just want to get a movie recommendation from you, either something that's personal to you or a movie that's really good no one talks about.
I would say probably one a lot of people haven't seen, but was a big inspiration for this film, is The Illinois Parables by Deborah Stratton.
All right. Yeah, I don't even think I heard of that one, so I'm gonna check it out.
Check it out. It's slow and it's mysterious, but if you sit through it, it's gonna stick in your mind.
Excellent. Thanks for joining me, Casey, and congratulations on the movie. And yeah, it's got some value. Hopefully a bunch of people check this one out.
Yeah, thanks so much. And please, if you're interested, touseamountain.com, at touseamountain, Instagram, Facebook, follow us, check it out. Come see the film in New York. Hopefully it's coming to LA and other cities later in August, September, this fall. So keep an eye out.
Hey everyone, what's up? Just very quickly, I'm adding this to the end of our episode, our CinemAddicts episode, because we want to link on our show notes a GoFundMe for Bryan Bishop. Eric Holmes, can you tell our listeners a little bit about Bryan Bishop and the GoFundMe, why we're doing the link on our show notes?
Bryan Bishop, Amazon, top 10 New York Times top 10 author. I don't know all that stuff. But yeah, he's on the Film Vault. He's had cancer issues in the past, seem to have went away, but apparently they seem to be coming back. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know a bunch of the details about it, but I do know they have a GoFundMe for him, mostly help him sort of get through stuff because Bryan apparently can't do what he was able to. So his wife has taken up a lot of their role, keeping the family bills paid and all that stuff. And so it's to help out with that. And
yeah,
I don't know. I feel weird talking about it because I know very little about all the details about it.
Currently, it's at 180,000. That's the GoFundMe. What they are asking for regarding the GoFundMe page. The good news is over 142,870. Yeah. Actually, specifically, as of this recording, $142,874 has been raised towards that 180,000 goal. And if you have questions and want to know more about Bryan's condition per Eric's discussion, go check out the GoFundMe page because his wife Christie gives really a lot of updates, in-depth updates on Bryan's condition. And she even updated as of August 17th, which I believe is that is today. She gave an update on Bryan as well. And if you guys listen to CinemAddicts, possibly a lot of you listen to CinemAddicts because your first listen was Bald Bryan, Anderson Cowan, and now Avery over at the Film Vault. And they do such a great job at the Film Vault. And Bryan, I can't specifically say or call Bryan Bishop a friend. I know of him. I know him. We've conversed a couple of times at different functions, and Eric and I and Peter Beta and other people within the Film Vault community. It was great at the Film Vault live event. Me, Eric, and Peter Beta hung out. We went to Hard Rock. We got to meet Bryan.
Actually, Greg, I believe the first time I met you was when they were doing that bowling thing.
And the bowling thing, which was very interesting. That's the first time I met Eric Holmes, and Andrew Martin was there too. So it was me, Andrew Martin, Eric Holmes, Bryan Bishop, Anderson Cowan, and I think that's it, right? That was just us hanging out and bowling and just kicking the you-know-what. And it was great. It was great. Bryan's a good guy. Bryan's a very good guy. And the fact that he has been dealing and fighting through and persevering through cancer since I think at least 2008 or 2009. I don't know the specifics, one of those years, but it's amazing. And he, like you said, I forgot the name of the book, but he released that book. But
Shrinkage.
New
York Times bestseller.
And he has.
I don't know if that's accurate, but it probably is. And
it is. I'm sure. I'm gonna say that's right. And then he has an upcoming documentary. He finished a documentary called Growth, a documentary which has humor, but it's also value added. It's about cancer and how people use humor to hopefully get through their process with and fight in struggles with cancer. So
I would say that, I think it was the first time I met Bryan, maybe the second time. It was during Groupers when Anderson was premiering it. I want to say down in Santa Ana.
Okay.
But it was one of the Groupers premieres I went to, and Bryan was there, and he was cool. And then I was like, I don't know, I don't think he liked me or whatever. And Anderson's he's not doing very well. Because Bryan, from what I know through Anderson, Bryan's constantly going through, even when his cancer was sort of under control, he does things and just grits his teeth and gets through it.
Yeah.
And that's commendable, I think. That, you know,
Highly
the fact
commendable.
that I'm not gonna make this an issue. And granted, he plays it up on the show. Oh, blah blah blah. I got cancer. He'll use that as an excuse, but he does that as kind of a bit on the show. But
Right.
from the few times I met him, he seems to, I'm going to get through this and I'm going to do my part, and I sense that he's going through a lot of pain and not, you know, as a social sacrifice. He's not going to make that known to the people around him. And I appreciate that about him. And on top of that, the what him and everyone else for that matter did for Mitch at their live show, Mitch couldn't make it, and I will always respect him and anyone that I asked and said something for that. And so Bryan's a good guy. As much as he's Anderson's foil on the film vault, he ultimately he's a good guy, and doesn't deserve this at all. And more importantly, let's say, hypothetically, you hate Bryan. I don't think anyone actually hates Bryan. Like you do as like a playful, that's the bit, but I don't think anyone hates Bryan. But let's say you do. This isn't about Bryan so much as it's about his daughter Tessa and about his wife. And his wife Christie. And I know here in Colorado Springs, once in a while, they would do a show at the Triple Nickel to raise money for cancer, and they pick a family. Whatever money we make that night, you get it. Are you going to use it for cancer research? Are you going to use it for medical bills? Are you going to use it to pay rent? Are you going to use it to go on vacation? Doesn't freaking matter. You're going through a tough time. Use this money for whatever you want.
100%, Eric. 100%. Yeah.
And so that they're going to get the money. They're going to use it in a way they feel is, I have no idea what they're going to use it for. I imagine some of it's going to go to pay bills. I imagine some of it's going to help for medical bills. I imagine some of it will be like, let's just freaking take a week off, and because we're dealing with this, let's blow off steam. Because I think that's every bit as important as anything else that you would use them.
That's part of the care. That is part of the care. And then, yes, a great deal of that will go, like you were saying, Eric, to in-home care as well. And then Christie details it a lot in her updates on the GoFundMe page. And I donated. It's none of my business how they use their money. They're going to know how to use the money way better than I or you or anyone else who's donated. So we trust them. We just want, like Eric was saying, we just want Bryan to get better, and just best to Bryan and Tessa and Christie and just the family and the Film Vault family. And
on top of that, we just lost Will. We just lost Mitch. I don't want to lose Bryan. Bryan and I are not super close, but I love Bryan. He's a great guy. I love his podcast. The few interactions I've had with him have been
always good.
The first one was a bit weird, but I get it now. But
he was cool with us, right? I mean, when we hung out with him, great guy.
They've been positive, and no one deserves what Bryan's going through and what Bryan's family's going through. So if you can help out, you can help out. And if you can't, but
I will say something, okay? And I don't have to tell you guys over at the Film Vault who really listen to the Film Vault, and because of that, you listen to us on CinemAddicts. Number one, thank you for that. But if you listen to CinemAddicts and maybe don't listen to the Film Vault and just came to CinemAddicts, all two of you. No, in fairness, there's at least three. But in all fairness, though, Anderson, even though he and I don't talk a lot on a given week or a given month or sometimes on a given year, maybe once or twice a year, we are very bonded. We are very close. We've known each other for over 30 years. And I can tell you without fail, Eric mentioned the bit. Don't ever get it twisted. Whenever Anderson is bullying and being aggressive towards Bryan on the show, it's a total bleeping bit. I just want to make this clear. I'm not saying I know.
Now, not completely, because Bryan does get under Anderson's skin sometimes. But he certainly plays it.
Yes. Okay. We get annoyed. People get annoyed with each other. That's what happens when you are close with someone. But I can tell you, and this is not just glazing on Bryan, and Anderson has a deep reservoir of love for Bryan, and it's genuine. And if you try to put that on the Film Vault, that is not going with the bit. So let me just make that clear. And I don't know, Eric and I don't know Bryan as much as we know Anderson. We are very close to Anderson, both me and Eric. But I can tell you, and I'd put all the chips on the table, I would tell you, and I would confidently guess that Bryan feels the same way about Anderson. That's why these two guys, they started the Film Vault. They influenced me as a podcaster. I don't even know when Eric started listening to the Film Vault. Because of that, he became friends. There's so many people who've been affected by Bryan, just on a selfish note, on the podcasting universe, but so many different layers. So we are just wishing the best for Bryan. Yeah, Christie, Tessa, his family, and the Film Vault family as well. Eric, final thoughts from you?
I'd also like to take this time to mention that obviously Mitch and Will was a big loss for our community. Bryan's going through some stuff. I don't want him to be a loss for the community. I want Bryan to live forever and be part of the community as long as nature allows that. But also, anyone listening, I want you to be around forever too. If there's any other sort of GoFundMe for any listeners or any fellow podcasters or anything like that, let us know. We would love to highlight that as well, because we're a family here. Sounds sappy, and they do that at McDonald's and Walmart, I'm sure, so that ruins that whole thing. But I like all the listeners I've talked to. I've liked everyone I've interacted with doing this whole podcast thing. And I want us all to be safe and help each other out when we can. So if anyone else in the future has anything like a GoFundMe or something's happening or whatever, if you're doing a GoFundMe for heroin and you want to sell your baby, maybe not that, but
yeah, if there's
if there's any legitimate GoFundMes for anyone listening to this that you want us to mention it, please let us know.
Yes. Yeah, please let us know. All right. So that is it for our long message. Most importantly, on a selfish note, thank you so much for your support, for supporting CinemAddicts. But on top of that, even more important, check out the GoFundMe link for Bryan Bishop in our show notes. And thanks again for supporting us here over at CinemAddicts. We'll see you next week. We forgot, this is our second sign-off. I forgot to mention, not Eric. Eric did mention, we love you, William Lindis. We love you, Mitch Burns. We'll see you next week or a couple of days here over at the CinemAddicts and the Cinematic. Take care, guys.